right, welcome back. In case you're just joining us, it's time for our conversation right now. My guest is joining me. He is Mainsara. He's the Registrar at National Collateral Registry. Welcome to you, sir, and thanks for joining me on the show.
Thank you very much,
Live
Nancy.
and direct.
Yeah,
so we finally got you here.
Exactly. Good morning.
Today, good morning. Just during my introduction, I was saying, or I said, I talked about the National Collateral Registry. I gave a brief, I wouldn't say background, just information. But you're here, so I would like you to speak concerning the National Collateral Registry. Why was it necessary? Just give us the journey so far. Why collateral? What does it even mean? For those listening or watching us right now.
Thank you very much, Nancy. From the name National Collateral Registry, to any listener will believe that it's going to be like a registry where certain information is being registered, which is actually true. This is necessitated by looking at the Nigerian situation. The project actually started in 2013 when the Central Bank of Nigeria realizes that the large segment of the economy has not been taken into consideration. What I mean is that a very large portion of our SMEs, which constitute over 97% of the active economic SMEs, have not been getting credit. So the Central Bank, in collaboration with the International Finance Corporation, which is a private arm of the World Bank, decided to come up with a registry, National Collateral Registry, so that some of those assets that are available to those SMEs can be used as collateral. Why? Because the normal conventional banks, our deposit money banks, prefer those assets, fixed assets, like you rightly said, landed properties, choice houses, because there are choices houses, because even if you have a house and it's not well documented, and you decide to pledge your house as a collateral, the bank will not, because they will prefer those houses that are situated in Ikoyi, Victoria Island, or maybe Maitama. And when you look at those SMEs, those 37 million or over 37 million, these are small businesses that do not require more than maybe 100,000, 250,000 naira, and they don't have neither the buildings nor the land that the banks required. Are we going to look at them and just decide to ignore them? No, because they contribute significantly to the nominal GDP in this country, over 48%. Now, and also they also contribute a lot to the employment generation. So as such, the central bank decided, well, the registry has to be in place so that the SMEs can use what they have to get what they want. Because they have movable assets. What are movable assets? Those are assets that can move from one place to place. It could be a vehicle, it could be machinery, it could be jewelry, it could be tailoring, it could be tailoring machine, it could be keke napep, it could be machine. Anything the bank realizes that has value and it can be evaluated by the financial institution and can afford to get a client a credit can be used as a movable asset, including intellectual property. Because if you look at the teeming youth that were churning out every year from the university, they have a lot of ideas in their head. What they have is only their certificates. Can the bank decide to give them based on what they have in the upstairs, in their heads? I think we're almost there now.
So that means that your certificate can also be a collateral?
Yes, if the bank decide to take it. There was a program that was turned out by the central bank, Youth Empowerment program that was supposed to use certificates as a collateral. Somewhere along the line, there was some participants, but so far I think it has been put on hold. They are trying to redefine and refine the whole program. Yes, but the banks, as we know, conventional lending, rely mostly on physical assets. They want to see those assets that have value, that they can be evaluated at any point in time. In the event of default, they can fall back those assets. These assets, the essence of using movable asset is to ensure that, one, it prompts the lender and the borrower to have information asymmetry, to reduce the information asymmetry, because once you decide to pledge your movable asset, you'll be urgent to go and work very hard to ensure that you come and pay your debt. So it's a very means of reducing defaults in the financial system.
When were you set up? When was this launched? Because I know I talked about it earlier, 2016 or so. Yeah. But okay, let me just.
When we started 2013, just to put the framework and the some paperwork that was done on. We actually came live on the May 25th, 2016. 2016. Yes, and we started registering our first financing statement on the 1st of November 2016. By today, we have recorded a value of movable assets that have been used, that have been registered interest, they're registered by the commercial banks and the microfinance banks and the finance houses to the tune of over 1.2 trillion in naira value. And then there's also some other assets that were registered using foreign currency denominated. Like we have registered as those assets about $1.5 billion and also 6 million euros on the registry as of today. Okay,
tell us how this really works. You know, because I can imagine that Nigerians will be saying, especially for those hearing for the first time, and perhaps your agency will need to do more in terms of public enlightenment, because you are servicing over 37 million MSMEs in Nigeria. How does this work? For someone listening to us right now and saying, okay, I have movable assets. Just like you said, for women, we can even use our jewelry, isn't it? Or for those of the women out there that have gold, you know, you can actually use that to also get loans and all of that. So how does it work?
Yeah, thank you very much. Ideally, let me start with the micro businesses, because they are the smallest of the small. Then I'll move up. Typically, when you look at our micro businesses, they are abound on the streets. They are the ones selling pure water. Some of them hockey, some of them frying akara, hairdressers, tailors, and what have you. They're supposed to become under the formal financial system. What it means, they should have an account and they have a bank that they patronize. Now, once you have a financial system, once you are in a financial system and you have a bank account, you are supposed to approach your bank for a credit line of credit, which if they request for an asset or a collateral, you now tell them that you have a movable asset. Maybe you have a laptop, or you have a phone, or you have a machine, or you have a motorcycle or a car that you want to pledge as a collateral. The bank now will value that asset. Take an example, maybe a phone, an iPhone that is about 600,000. And the young man just needs about 100,000. The bank can decide to register its interest on that phone. Well, what it means, the most beautiful thing about the collateral registry is that if the bank decides to give you a line of credit, it does not take away your asset and keep it in their premises. You go with your asset because they only register their asset. Why do they register their interest on the asset? In order to make it public, that look, whoever wants to transact any business on this particular asset, I have taken my interest, I have taken a priority on that asset. So be aware, which means if you have an asset that has a large value, you can decide to approach multiple financial providers. Which means if you have, let's take an asset that is maybe 10 million, and you went to Bank A and collected 1 million. By the time you have gone halfway into your project, you realize you needed more money. And when you approach the same bank and decide, look, why don't you look for another bank to get a similar facility? Yes, you can use the same asset to take another facility, but the second bank will have to bear in mind that they are taking a second priority, which means one of the principal aspects of how the registry works is you must conduct search. Whenever you are transacting or consummating any business activity between a client, you are supposed to conduct search to determine the level of encumbrances on those assets that you want to pledge. So once the bank agrees to take your asset and register their interest on it, the transaction will be
How does the collateral registry come in between that?
Once the agreement has been perfected, agreed,
between the bank and the client,
borrower and the lender, the creditor now will now register his interest using our platform. There is a template that we call financing statement. Once that financing statement has been completed and it is at the bottom of the click, it will hit the registry because it's an online registry. Our registry does not involve you carrying papers physically to come to the registry to register your interest. wherever you are in Nigeria or outside Nigeria, all you need to do is to be on the platform, which our addresses are all over, www.ncr.gov.ng. Once you click, you will have access to the registry. You can conduct search, and also if you are going to take interest on the collateral, you can also register a financing statement.
So that registration comes from who? From the client?
The registration comes from the creditor, the person that gives credit.
That's the bank?
That's the bank. It could be bank, it could be financial any other financial institution, microfinance bank, mortgage banks, finance houses, and so many non-bank financial institutions, even non-bank financial institutions like cooperatives and what have you, they all can register, because when we started, the governor of the central bank signed regulation, which he has the mandate to do. He issued regulation number 1 in February 2015. Why issuing regulation? Because we needed to start the project, and by implication, we can only supervise, you can only issue regulation to those institutions that you can supervise. So we started with only financial institutions. But when the act, that you rightly said, was signed on the 30th of May 2017 by the acting president then, Professor Yemi Osibajo, then the act became very encompassing. It enlarges the aspect of those who can register and those who can use the registry. So anybody, even we're even forecasting the use of peer-to-peer lending in future. Whereby if you want to take money from me now, I can decide to say, okay, I'll give you money, but I need to register my interest on your iPhone, so that in case you are unable to pay, I'll take the phone and sell it, and then recover my money and give you the balance of your money.
Okay.
The balance of the asset.
Okay, so because I was almost coming to that. Since it's financial institutions that can register on your platform, so individuals can't just go and register on your platform. Individual
cannot go for now, but we're working towards a point whereby they can also develop peer-to-peer lending.
Because let's say I have a business interest and I come to you, for example, and say, please lend me £1 million. Yeah. You can.
That can equally. Exactly. Okay. But once you have a company, there is a way we can register you from the back end. So that, because ideally, for the ease of doing business, we want a situation whereby whoever is on the portal, the moment you open the portal, you'll be able to, maneuver yourself within the environment without anybody guiding you. So, and as such, it has to be much, much simplified. But because now that we need to have your details, because what it means that you must have a registration with the Corporate Affairs Committee, which means a registered liability company, or you are also a business, you have a business registration, or if you are an individual who is conducting a search, you must have a VVN, because that is one of the requirements, that you must have an identifier. Yes.
Okay. Can you just give us an idea of how many movable assets registered with you right now?
As at today, we have registered over 79,000 different mode of assets, from agricultural, livestock, jewelry, intellectual property, accessions, machineries, so many things, so many. There are over 78,000. And as I told you, we have 22 deposit money banks. All the deposit money banks have registered their administrators on the registry.
Okay.
We have now almost 900 active microfinance banks. About 600 of them have registered on the collateral registry. As of today, we have about over 100 active financial institutions that are taking movable assets from public to register their interest in order to avail them the opportunity of having credit.
And that credit comes at a single-digit interest rate?
It does. Sometimes it does. It depends on the
fund that is being disbursed.
Yes, it depends on the funds that is being disbursed. Most of the interventions of the central bank that have been registered like the anchor borrowers is actually at a single digit. But if the bank decides to use its own funds to disburse, it's going to disburse at its own determined rate that the bank obliges. It depends. And if you are a regular customer, it definitely it is something that is negotiable between you and the financial institution.
Okay, I must also say here, because the central bank has many intervention programs. There's the 220 billion naira MSME fund, and that goes, I think, at a single digit, 9%.
Yeah.
You also talked about Anko Bora's program.
Yeah.
There are some other initiatives, I think, by the central bank. Yes, CACs and what have you.
Yeah.
That is also coming at a single digit.
Yes.
So, paraventure people will want to get access to such funds. They can also register through the financial institutions now, their movable assets, isn't it?
Yes, all the new MSMEs and the National Microfinance Bank that is is on board. Any asset that has been, any physical asset that has been acquired for the client, whether a farmer or a businessman, those assets are supposed to be registered on the National Collateral Registry. And if those programs, either churned out by the Central Bank of Nigeria or otherwise, either you want to come under a federal government assisted program, as long as you have an asset and you want to use it as a collateral, you can register. Any financial institution that want to take that asset, that want to take interest on that asset, can register that interest on the National Collateral Registry. The registry is very wide, does not restrict itself only to financial institutions, like I rightly said. So if there is a program like trader money, eventually, since the trader money was just for small businesses, but those assets, if the federal government wanted to secure them to ensure repayment, they could have equally registered some of those assets on the collateral registry, so that it's a two-way affair. It's a win-win situation. The creditor wants to prove his credit his priority, while the borrower wants to prove his credit worthiness. If I said this is the level of asset, or this is the quantity of asset that I have, and you are able to value it, that will tell you who am I by its value. And so also, it also helps the credit bureau to get a reasonable form of information, so that at any time information is required about a particular client, it substantiates and it gives you all what that client is all about.
How do you collaborate with credit bureaus?
Yes.
How do you do that? I think I'll need to do a show on credit bureaus.
Exactly,
so
exactly.
People understand,
National Collateral Registry and the credit bureau are like a Siamese twins. The credit bureau is supposed to give you a credit history of a particular client, all what his transactions, what is the rate of the mode of payments, and how fast he has been defaulting, whether there's default, including telecos and what have you, because it tells about you. By extension, if you have a good credit history, you don't need even to go to the bank to start asking for loan. It is the bank that will come to you and say, Nancy, you have qualified for this level of loan because of your transactions performance. While the the collateral registry allows you to use your movable assets, those assets that were hitherto rejected by the deposit conventional banks, to use them now as collateral. And the banks now is at ease. In the event of default, they have something to fall back. So if you look at it, the rate of default is going to be reduced. The interest, the cost of money is going to be reduced, as well as the financial system stability is going to improve very greatly, because the banks now will have confidence, because they needed confidence in order to ensure that their money will come back.
Now, what is the attitude of banks to receiving movable assets? Because we know that traditionally, financial institutions seek lands and buildings, like I've said. They want to get your C of O very quickly and keep it in their possession. How are they, embracing this?
I think I will give them a credit in the sense, when we started initially, like any other project, at the teething stage, you will have to face some obstacles and some tractions. Initially, very few of them that were actually truly involved in the project from the conception made a very great effort to register movable assets. But with continuous sensitization and advocacy, almost all of them, most of them now, except 3 or 4, are very active when I'm talking about deposit money banks. And for the microfinance bank, they have a greatest challenge is actually the infrastructural availability. Some of these microfinance banks are located in the villages and rural areas where there is no internet and no light.
So they can't.
So it becomes, they can't, but it comes with a problem because either you have to use generator. To access power, or they have to provide a modem for their internet services. So what we're trying is trying to advocate, since they have corresponding banks, they can also use their corresponding bank in case they are located in such remote areas. But they are not doing badly. So most of them, from what our understanding is, that is due to lack of understanding. Now that we are trying to reach all of them, most of them are now coming on board with the advent of so many programs that we're churning out in terms of asset-based lending. A lot of them are beginning to take interest in asset-based lending because it is now a vogue. The issue of lending using physical asset is more or less becoming a moribund issue.
Okay. For those watching us and you want to ask Mr. Mainsara a question, please feel free to do that. We have less than 10 minutes to the end of the show. My director has been talking in my ear. So we have just a few minutes to the end of the show. But you can send your comments and your opinions as well as your questions. Now, let's talk about perhaps the ratio of those depositing movable assets between men and women. Tell me. I think it should be women, Abi.
Nancy, you are right. Okay. Honestly speaking, I was going to give them yeah, you're right. Because out of 78,000 financing statements recorded today, women have about 29,000. 29,000. They are doing great in terms of lending, in terms of using their movable asset to access credit. And
because a lot of women do not have access to lands and
buildings
and
so
all
that's
of that.
In fact, that is one of the main reasons.
But we have movable assets.
If they were being crowded out because they don't have land, they were not having issues. There were a lot of issues with landed property and buildings. But with what they have, most of them have jewelries. Most of them have movable asset in terms of furniture. You will be surprised to learn that there is a particular microfinance bank in Ibadan that even goes to the extent of registering interest on household furniture, including home theater, refrigerators, and what have you. Televisions, yes.
So you can use that to get loans.
They can even your own household furniture that you are using in your sitting room can be used as a
like this chair of mine now.
Yes, somebody can decide to come and say, okay, this is the value of this chair, and this is the value of this travel, and this is the value of this theater. So I can decide to give direct communication this amount of facility using this facility as a collateral.
How about looking at the death? When I mean the death of those facilities, that's the, how those facilities will it be sustainable in the long term? Because these are movable assets. They can also be stolen. They can get missing. They can get spoiled.
Yeah,
what happens?
Yeah, when you look at when we say movable asset, they are normally SMEs loans are short-term loans, and most of these assets that they are going to be they are using, they are also assets that depreciate very easily.
Yes, that's the word I was looking for: depreciation of the assets.
So presumably, if a bank is giving out credit using movable asset as a collateral, it should most factor the issue of depreciation. It must factor the lifespan of the asset, and also the first sales value of those assets. With the coming of the National Collateral Registry, a lot of markets have been opened up, such as secondary markets. Initially, we don't have any secondary market in this country, secondary market of assets. We only have auctions where most of those assets are forcibly sold out to people whether they like it or not. But now we have a secondary market platform, an online secondary market platform that is actually registered in Lagos, and that can come to any part of the country to uptake those movable assets and pay you, discount the asset and pay you instantly without taking any hassle to go and be looking for a buyer, looking for a credit, who wants to buy your asset, and then you just credit your account. So it has made things very easy. Things like factoring, leasing are also coming on board because it helps because there is a lot of account receivables and inventories that can be registered on the account on the collateral registry. So with the platform the service is now available, so many businesses are springing up, latching on the National Collateral Registry. And it will interest you to know that those who are listening to us, they knew that before coming to the National Collateral Registry, you can only register your interest at the Corporate Affairs Commission. Now, still, Corporate Affairs Commission registers immovable assets, interest on movable assets, and you register your interest at the Corporate Affairs Commission. So we have taken it upon ourselves to ensure that we integrate, because when the bill was signed under Section 2C, it categorically stated that each and every registry that uses movable asset as a collateral must integrate, must be seen to and fro on the National Collateral Registry. So now if you have an asset, let's say that you are registered at the National Collateral Registry, and among the assets there is movable component of it, you can easily see it on the National Collateral Registry. The system has been integrated. So they are now talking to each other.
Oh,
yes.
okay. So just as we end the show, what is your final word to Nigerians that are watching, or to Nigerians that are listening to us right now, to the 37 million MSMEs and counting, actually, because I do know perhaps there will be another survey to know how many small businesses we have in Nigeria. What's your final word to them?
My final word to Nigerians, especially the financial space, financial institutions, non-bank financial institutions, cooperatives and what have you, please endeavor to use the platform, endeavor to use your movable asset as a collateral, because it's going to increase the employment generation, it's going to increase the percentage contribution towards our GDP, and it's going to increase the level of employment that people will get gainfully employed, and that is going to reduce a lot of risk issues that Nigeria is now facing. Because if you look at it, the backbone, critically, what is happening is as a result of lack of jobs, and what is happening in the country is not a good story. So the banks should also please try to listen to your clients, because they are using it for the first time, and this is something that is just about 2 years old. We should have the patience to listen to our clients that come to say they want to use their mobile asset. If you have any technical hitch, if you have maybe any misconception, our address is on our site. Please endeavor to get across to us, and we'll be ready to come to you anywhere you are in this country. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. We're getting comments. Dr. Humabi said this is a brilliant initiative. I guess he's talking about the collateral registry. Thank you, Dr. Ihuamubi. Magnus Okotie is saying, nice program on collateral registry. Please, how does the lender ensure that the borrower does not dispose the asset since the asset is still in the possession of the borrower? I think I mentioned a bit of it earlier. Okay. Yeah. All right, that's the much we can take. Many thanks for coming to the program, sir. We hope